Leaked conversations have just exposed a plan that could completely destabilize Red Bull's dominance. Because Aston Martin isn't trying to copy Red Bull's formula, they're trying to dismantle it from the inside out. At the center of this silent storm? One of the few voices Max Verstappen trusts blindly on race day, his personal engineer, now in direct talks with Aston Martin's top strategists. But here's the twist no one expected: this isn't about money. This is about removing Red Bull's race day advantage before 2026 even begins. And if the leak is accurate, Aston Martin may be planning something much bigger than a recruitment. They could be trying to rewrite the power hierarchy of Formula One. Red Bull has made no official comment. No press conference has been called, and no denial has been issued. And in the world of Formula One, that absence speaks volumes. When something truly threatens a top team structure, silence isn't just a delay, it's a tactic. The rumors swirling around Max Verstappen's inner circle, particularly the private talks between his race engineer and Aston Martin, have not been publicly addressed. But behind the walls of Milton Keynes, the internal temperature has reportedly shifted. Because losing a race engineer isn't rare. But losing this race engineer? That's foundational. The engineer in question is not just another voice on the radio. He is part of the rhythm Verstappen operates within. A conduit between Max's instincts and the garage's mechanical execution. He knows how Max reacts to pressure, how he drives when the grip disappears, and how to translate that raw aggression into measurable performance gains. For Red Bull, he's been a constant through development cycles, regulation changes, and world championships. And if that kind of trust starts speaking with another team, especially one building itself into a long-term threat, the problem isn't just loyalty. The problem is vulnerability. From Aston Martin's side, the public face remains calm. They've given nothing away. No statements, no celebratory hints, and certainly no confirmation. But their recent moves suggest a team preparing for something deeper than just the next race. With a high-performance campus now fully operational and a factory partnership with Honda entering 2026, Aston Martin is quietly assembling a structure designed not just to compete but to win sustainably. Their priority now is culture, and culture comes from people. Not blueprints. Not simulations. But minds like the one Verstappen has trusted with his race rhythm for years. What makes this leak more disturbing is the source of the chatter. It didn't come from the media. It came from within. Small signs. Changes in schedule. Unusual absences from key meetings. Calendar conflicts that didn't align with Red Bull's race prep. Insiders began to notice discrepancies, tiny at first, but consistent. And then came the message trails. Informal communications, off-the-record meetings, and whispers of NDAs exchanged not with Red Bull HR but with legal teams at Silverstone. That's not rumor. That's movement. And movement of this kind doesn't happen without intent. If these talks are real and the consistency of the evidence suggests they are, then Aston Martin's strategy is clear. They're not trying to catch up to Red Bull's performance curve. They're trying to reset it. By removing the operational glue that holds Verstappen's race weekends together, they're betting that Red Bull's precision cracks just enough to lose its psychological edge. You don't have to beat them on outright pace if you can interrupt their execution. And nothing interrupts execution like removing the person who makes the driver feel untouchable. What's perhaps most remarkable is how early this is happening. The 2026 regulation reset is still a season away. But the groundwork, especially on the human side, is already being laid. Teams like Aston Martin aren't just preparing cars. They're preparing power structures. And Verstappen's engineer isn't just a tactical asset, he's a psychological one. If Aston can bring him in early enough, they don't just gain his experience. They remove his stabilizing influence from Red Bull during its most ambitious technical transition in a decade. A transition that, by all reports, is already showing internal strain. And then, there's the silence from Max. He hasn't commented. No interviews. No cryptic messages on social media. Just focus. Cold, clinical, controlled. Which, in itself, is uncharacteristic. Verstappen rarely ignores these types of rumors. He usually confronts them with confidence. But not this time. And when a driver known for total control over his environment suddenly says nothing while one of his closest allies considers the exit door, something deeper is moving beneath the surface. The most unsettling part of this entire situation is the method by which the information surfaced. It wasn't a media scoop. It wasn't an accidental reveal by a team principal. It started with digital breadcrumbs, anomalies in encrypted communications, meeting metadata, and employee movement patterns that didn't fit Red Bull's usual engineering workflows. These weren't tabloid rumors. They were internal red flags, raised not by rivals, but by Red Bull's own operational systems. That's what makes this so serious. Because it's not about what the world has seen, it's about what Red Bull has suddenly realized might already be gone. According to insiders familiar with the situation, the engineer had been involved in undisclosed external consultations, some masked as private engagements, others simply left off official scheduling altogether. What's even more telling is that several of these consultations align closely with key personnel availability within Aston Martin's technical department. It paints a picture not of a casual conversation, but of a coordinated dialogue. A slow, deliberate courtship. And as one source described it, this isn't recruitment. It's an extraction. Quiet, surgical, and months in the making. What makes this all the more alarming is the specific nature of the information potentially in motion. We're not talking about technical specs or aerodynamic tweaks, those are already evolving every month. The value here is philosophical. The engineer is reportedly carrying deep knowledge of Red Bull's race day adaptation protocols, energy recovery strategy interpretations, and, most importantly, how Verstappen's feedback is interpreted and translated into instant car setup decisions. These are instincts learned from years of working side by side, not something that can be taught or found in code. It's no coincidence that Aston Martin, a team preparing for a full works engine partnership with Honda in 2026, would target someone with intimate knowledge of how to align power unit behavior with driver behavior. That synergy is the holy grail of modern F1, and it doesn't live in spreadsheets. It lives in conversations, patterns, human translations of mechanical language. And if the leak is correct, Aston Martin might soon possess that translation layer, one built not on guesswork, but on years of data and real-time decision-making with one of the most dominant drivers in F1 history. Several documents now being scrutinized internally suggest that preliminary contractual discussions may have been formalized weeks ago. Non-disclosure agreements, redacted availability clauses, and even early-stage integration plans have surfaced, though none are officially confirmed. But it's the timing that speaks volumes. These actions coincided with key milestones in Red Bull's 2026 power unit project, a moment where losing internal consistency could trigger delays, second guesses, or worse, development misalignment. That's how subtle sabotage works, not through drama, but through the quiet removal of confidence. The ripple effect is already being felt. Red Bull engineers have reportedly tightened internal communication loops. Certain files have been reclassified. Access permissions reshuffled. These are not standard moves during the stable phase of a season. They are containment procedures. Which means Red Bull believes there's more than a casual conversation happening. They believe an internal asset is actively being compromised. Whether or not that compromise results in a full transfer is irrelevant. The damage, in many ways, is already underway. And still, despite the growing evidence, nothing is official. No names have been confirmed. No contracts signed, at least not publicly. But the fact that Red Bull is adjusting operational protocols, the fact that Aston Martin has gone quiet, and the fact that Max Verstappen's trusted race engineer is suddenly absent from key planning sessions, all of it points in one direction. This isn't a rumor anymore. It's a tactical leak. And that leak, if allowed to continue unchecked, could become the most consequential personnel shift Formula One has seen since Adrian Newey left McLaren. The key twist in this entire situation isn't that Aston Martin wants to build a better car. It's that they appear to be building a better structure. And in doing so, they're targeting not just Red Bull's engineering talent but Red Bull's very operating model. With the engineer at the center of this leak reportedly holding both performance and behavioral insights on how Verstappen functions under pressure, Aston Martin isn't merely chasing lap time, they're chasing process superiority. And by doing it now, quietly and methodically, they're laying the groundwork to dismantle Red Bull's dominance from the inside out. The bigger revelation, though, is what this leak implies about Aston Martin's long-term vision. They're not just investing in infrastructure. They're investing in disruption. Targeting an engineer with intimate access to race day logic, deployment timing, battery integration queues, and the emotional feedback loop that keeps Verstappen sharp. This isn't about copying success. This is about weaponizing it. Aston Martin is treating Verstappen's support system as a blueprint, and they're doing it not with espionage or imitation, but with legal, personal precision, hiring the one person who built the bridge between Max and the machine. But here's where the narrative flips again. Because if Aston Martin is playing this at such a strategic level, it raises the question, are they acting alone? There's increasing suspicion that their sudden surge of internal growth, their aggressive personnel expansion, and now this alleged acquisition, could be part of a broader alignment in the paddock. Several key voices, technical advisors, recruitment specialists, and even logistics partners have started appearing in both Mercedes and Aston Martin corridors. Some of them share histories. Others share grievances. And it suggests that Red Bull's rivals may not just be competing. They may be collaborating. This possibility, though unconfirmed, has precedent. Formula One's power dynamics have always operated in the shadows. Backdoor alliances, silent pacts, coordinated regulatory challenges, these are not conspiracy theories. They're historical facts. What's different now is the sophistication. This isn't about public outcry or political warfare. It's about surgical destabilization. Take one piece from Red Bull this year. Take another the next. And by the time the 2026 reset hits, you're not facing the same opponent, you're facing a weakened shell with an unfamiliar brain. And if this is the game Aston Martin is playing, the Verstappen engineer leak is simply move one. If they succeed in pulling him across, they gain more than just operational knowledge. They gain leverage. In recruitment. In strategy. Even in negotiations with Honda. Because suddenly, they're not building in the dark. They're building with intelligence, real, battle-tested insight from a team that's dominated both on pace and on execution. And Red Bull, meanwhile, would find itself protecting secrets that are already gone. This also reframes Red Bull's internal challenge. They're no longer defending against performance rivals. They're defending against structural erosion. And that's a much harder enemy to fight. You can't lap it. You can't outdevelop it. If the people you trust are being watched, courted, and slowly removed, how do you maintain unity? Especially when one of those people is the emotional keystone between your star driver and your race-winning machine. The collapse doesn't have to be explosive. It can be quiet. A fraction of a second lost here, a wrong strategy call there. And slowly, the edge disappears. And the most haunting part of all? Red Bull may already be too late. The talks, the encrypted messages, the gaps in attendance, if this process has been running for as long as it now appears, then Aston Martin isn't preparing to poach. They're preparing to replace. They're building a new command system, not to mirror Red Bull but to absorb its most powerful parts and repurpose them. This isn't recruitment. This is architectural warfare. And the first casualty may be the team that thought it was immune to infiltration.